I am excited to be here with you guys today, and I have a guest, my friend Maggie Graham. If you don't know me, I am Mo Spell. I am a life coach for mompreneurs. I love to help women navigate their business well so that they can show up for their family well. Because I believe that you can have success at both home and business without the mom guilt, without the overwhelm, and without the hustle and grind. So this past week, we've been walking through the Back to School for Your Business course and just kind of taking some inventory, right? And so if you haven't got that, I'll drop the link to the course so that you can just access the training in the workbook. But one of the modules was build simple routines and systems. And so I wanted to go a little deeper with that. And that's why I have my friend Maggie here, who this is her forte. And so Maggie, can you just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, who you serve?
Okay, awesome. So I'm Maggie Graham. I am a homeschooling mom of 11 children. They didn't all come at once. So yeah, they're about ranging in age from 29 down to 8. And I have been doing that for 25 years. I started at the very beginning. And I also have lived in really small houses growing, as I've grown this family. 7 kids in a 900 square foot, and then growing to 13 people in our family in a 1100 square foot. So it's just, that's part of the little inward of who I am, but I am actually a life coach as well. Mo and I are just, we're certified life coaches, and I serve women who are in that same place of overwhelm often and wanting to know how to, balance business, family, and homeschooling. And we have similar things in that genre. However, we each have our own gifts too. So that's what's so beautiful. And so I'm serving women who are in that place where they want to really refine those systems and order and create that peace out of the chaos they may be feeling. And so I'm creating different methods and ways to share how to do that no matter what circumstance you're in. And so I've developed a course called Unshakable Systems, where it talks about kind of the process of how to create any system. And so we'll get into that as we talk deeper, but yeah, that is who I am. And I've raised, like I said, if those kids are older, I've graduated 7 kids. I still have 5 at home, but 4 actually in school still. So I'm in the thick of it. I'm also a grandma, nana to going 7 little ones, and they're all under the age of 4, they're actually 3 and under. And it's an absolute joy and amazing. So that's who I am, I hope, in a nutshell.
Yes, that's fantastic. And like one of the questions I was going to ask, but you kind of answered it, was like, how did you get good at systems? And you said it kind of came out of necessity. Tell us a little more.
Absolutely. And it is out of necessity. So I found, as I had every child, right? So I started in this little tiny condo with 2 bedrooms. And it's as though every year or every other year, I felt like my life, my home was a shoebox. And not that it was a postage stamp, although it probably was to a lot of people. But if you think about your life as being like an aerial view, this little box that all the things are in, my home specifically, I felt like as soon as I arranged everything so it fit, every year, or especially every pregnancy, which is about every other year, right? Coming over, 25 years straight. This box, I felt like got turned over, shaken up, put a lid on it, shake it up, and then handed back to me and said, okay, do it again. Do it again. And so after year, now that came from being homeschooling, the homeschooling aspect, the running my own home business, which I did from the day my first baby. I realized I've been in business since my first child was 6 months old. That's when I started my very first business. And I went, wow, I really have tried to run all those things simultaneously. But yet in my mind, way back then, they were all so separate. So what's neat about what I discovered is that every other year, finally, after about 15 of those years, it started to occur to me that there is a pattern of how I handle that every other year issue. And so once I discovered what's the process I go through every other year, when I still live in the same space, the square footage has never changed, but I have to fit another person, or I have to augment it in some way, or a child gets bigger and they're now teenagers and now other things are happening. So if you think about that, everybody's going through this. And so the Lord really revealed to me, there is a method that I used to begin to not unravel every time that happened. Even though the box did get turned up, even though it did get shaken, it didn't shake me anymore. When I finally discovered that God had revealed to me, I follow this method and things can fall back into place in a new way. And that's what was so powerful, which was born then Unshakable Systems, because it was basically the Lord said, use that verse. And see, here I am. I don't have it memorized it right this second. I can't rattle it off. But it basically says everything that can be shaken must be shaken so that the things that are to last will stay. And that was where the Lord just went, everything is being shaken. And God is allowing me to pull away and fall off and break off everything that doesn't serve me anymore.
That is so good. And you brought up some good points. And if you're listening, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. If you have ahas, leave them in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, do #replay so that we know that you've seen this. But one thing that you said, Maggie, was every other year, it seems like everything got turned upside down and you had to start the process over again. How many women think that this is a one and done thing?
I was one of them. It was like I made a laundry system, or I created my method that I thought was going to work, and then it didn't, and yada, 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 right? We have all these things that we implement and we work so hard at creating. It could be a routine. It could be a schedule we posted on the wall. It could be a menu plan, and then things fell apart and went out to dinner and then I don't have that ingredient. I mean, goodness gracious, right? And you think one and done. But that's absolutely, it's a myth. I actually cover a huge list of what are the myths that we have believed over this time. One of the myths is that it's one and done, that systems and routines are one and done. And they're not. They are evolutionary. They're constantly needing to be revisited and repeated and rinsed and repeated, but refined. If you change the word from being like as if I have to start all over again, you begin to feel often like a failure. And that's when that judgment comes in of like, why can't I ever keep anything going? Why can't I ever do something and have it stay? I'm sorry, it's because you're living. You're not dead. You're not like, cement. We're people that are growing constantly. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the things we try to implement are also dependent upon others being enrolled and in line with what we're saying. So you might have the most lovely plan in the world, but if nobody follows you,
right,
you're going to keep having to find yourself in that same place again and again and again.
And you brought up you recognize that every other year it seems like you had the opportunity to reevaluate your systems, recreate them and everything. But then you also said something that something inward about that whole process shifted. And so can you speak a little bit more about what was the old Maggie who felt like, oh my goodness, there's my systems, my routines are messed up, versus the new Maggie who embraces this process?
I would say it's kind of maybe twofold, my response to that, because I believe that part of even through the process from the beginning was the vision. Number one is I had vision. Number one, I had faith and vision. So it's kind of this combo that I went to the Lord and asked him kind of what to do in these circumstances. And even though it was me doing the effort, it definitely was a surrender of obviously something shifting. Lord, I need your help, provision. I need to know what to do and how I need help. And he gave me a vision early on for this small space. So what really helped was the fact that I didn't have to waver in some very basic things. See, if you feel like when everyone tells you, aren't you going to move yet? You have 3 kids now. Shouldn't you get out of that little tiny apartment? And I wasn't in that place. And for me, I was like, the Lord showed me that I could fit 5 kids here. It was just a weird thing, a miraculous little planting a seed in my mind. He gave me a vision. Did he tell me how? No. Did he show me every step and all the 4 different transformations that needed to take when the 5th baby came? No. But what he did show me is, I don't know why, there was just this word that said, you have a tiny house, but you can easily fit 5 kids in that room. It's almost like it was a thought. Do you see that? The thought that I carried was
Mhm.
that there was this revelation and confidence that I didn't have to listen to all the people that
Mhm.
would make me insecure and think, well, gee, maybe should I move? No, the Lord told me in a sense, and I held on to that kind of promise
Yeah.
that he gave me, and a vision of, I don't even have to question or doubt and be double-minded. I get to stay in this belief that I can be here. I can fit this many people. It's just going to take creativity. And that gave me this different method and mindset, which changed my state of being to allow me to be open to new creative ideas.
Mhm.
And when I'm in the state of overwhelm, and so my old me of being overwhelmed and feeling like I can't do this, this is so tiny. If I believe the lies and the myths of everybody telling me that everybody deserves a certain amount of square footage and all these things, that the world was so countercultural. And I'm living in this other world. I almost felt like I was I don't know, somebody in the backwoods. There was a sweet old man. He wasn't that old, but at our church. And it was so cute. As I had child after child, he kind of knew that we lived in a small house, but his name was BJ. And he was this hefty, sweet, Southern, Black, beautiful man. And he would come to me and he said, you know what? When I was a baby, my crib was the top drawer of a dresser. My parents put me in a dresser. And when he told me that, he was just trying to be encouraging and saying, hey, listen, it's all good. Whatever the Lord provides for you, you use and you do. I turned out great. Everything is going to be okay. And it was just the sweetest encouragement of like, you get to be creative and you get to be settled. And what gave me the openness to see
Mhm.
brand new, strange ways of organizing things was that openness to the Lord saying, I already believe that it can happen. So it began to show itself to me because I allowed
Yeah.
myself to open for that.
That is so good. Because a lot of times our expectations of how things should work are what cause the guilt, the frustration, even the overwhelm, because we're like, this isn't how it should be. And it's that expectation, and that blocks the creativity, even the ability to see solutions are blocked when we have that frustration, that resentment, that guilt.
Right. I want to share really quick too and speak to this because there may be a mom out there who's experiencing that overwhelm, the frustration. And it's like, thanks, how sweet for you. I've not had that download from the Lord. I don't have a clue. Like things are messed up here. And this may be also like a mom who's had a baby or they're on their second or third child, and it's already kind of overwhelming and frustrating. And it just hit me to share part of the hard part of the journey was discovering that I never experienced necessarily postpartum depression the way that it's defined today, that like immediately that dip in the hormones right after the baby and you go into that really harder part. There's a level of just acclimation. But I discovered, and it wasn't until I don't think my 7th or 8th later babies that I began to look back as I continued to have children, but I went, mine doesn't come until 6 to 12 months. It
Mm.
was that season. And this is, if you relate to this, any mama out there, right? If you relate to this, just be aware. It wasn't anything I needed necessary clinical help for, but the awareness was very helpful of what was happening inside me because it was all my mind. And
Mhm.
here's what happened. By the time the baby hit between, it got 4 months, then 5, then 6 months old, for sure 7 and 8, all of a sudden the voices in my head were, you should have it all. Come on. Why are you still dealing with this? You should have been able to handle this by now. And once I had 3 or 4 kids, then the behavior of my children from that remote control nursing parenting, you're nursing
Yeah.
from the chair and you're nursing the baby and your remote control going, get off the couch, do that. All that kind of parenting is kind of fallen flat, and you're not getting the results that you know that you're after. All of a sudden that started condemning me like crazy. Why are my
Mhm.
kids acting up? Why is my house messier than it should be? There was a lack of grace. There was a lack of grace, and my mindset would spin off into this. That's when the depression hit. It spiraled into believing I'm not good enough. I'm not showing up like I should. I should have had this done by now. I've had all these kids. Why can't I? And so this is the all part of being born, the new way of learning. There's a method to create system. There's a method that this pulled me out when I discovered that while I was remote control parenting, I'll call it, or while I was nursing a baby, I had time to embrace the moment and also look up from my little moment with my baby and assess the mess, is what I call it. Assess the mess. A neutral experience of sitting and looking around and going, what's driving me crazy right now?
Mm,
And having a notebook next to me and journaling and saying, there's a pile in front of the door where everybody's dumping their shoes. I should have a basket there or something. There is, a pile here. Like, what are my hot spots? What are the places people pile things? It was a place. I have so many lists, if I go back in time, of all the things. And I now call that, mamas, it's called the frustration flush. It turned into that just recently, right? I started realizing what's frustrating me. Write it down, get it out of your head and off of the condemnation docket and put it down
mhm.
on a piece of paper, because it's just a neutral thing. It's not, your piles start to speak to you, but realize that those speakings are coming from your belief in your head. You're
Yes.
letting it have a voice of condemnation over you.
Mhm.
So we're gonna silence that by just identifying. It's like we talk about, the monster in the closet, open the door, shed light on it. It's really not there. It's just your coat, right? So it's the same thing. Just write those things down and assess the mess. And then write down all the things that frustrate you so that you can get them out of your head and on paper. And all of a sudden when you look at them, you're like, this is just a to-do list. And believe me, I've heard back feedback from mamas too. They look at that list and go, I'm still overwhelmed right now. It's all a
Right,
list.
right,
Okay, that's again a way this is why we
right.
coach. This is why we're coaches, to help you with
Yes.
those thoughts. But go on, what else were you gonna ask? I just
No, that is so key.
Mhm.
Because it's what we're telling ourselves about the situation that allows the drama to come in, right?
Totally.
And so
Mhm.
with your frustration flush, it's allowing um moms to feel that frustration, but do
Mhm.
something constructive with it instead of destructive, which was heaping on the guilt, the shame, the condemnation, right? And
Right.
so this is just you turn it then so that okay, it becomes a tool. Now
It
here's the
is.
tool where
Mhm.
I can choose what order I want to do this, what I want to tackle now, what I don't want to tackle, what I want to delegate or whatever. Go
And
in.
that's exactly what I use. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a step. That's how, like you asked, how was it born? It was through this slow process where it's almost like the Lord gave me this step, and then I realized I did that. Then I took the next step, and it became this program of the 180 method that I use, which is
Yeah.
you stand your ground or sit your ground while you're nursing,
Yeah.
and turn
Yeah.
everything around, because you can turn it around in your head before you turn it around in reality.
Ooh, right there, you guys. You can turn it around in your head before you turn it around in your reality. That is a quote right there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to kind of backtrack and
Okay.
go and ask, why do we need systems and routines?
Well, my belief of why we need them is so that there is something that we can fall back on that creates some normalcy and some order in our home and in our life. I mean, let's just ask, do you get up in the morning and brush your teeth? I mean, we have routines regardless. If you're live today and you got out of bed and you did anything, there's likely many things that you did that you do every day. Well, by default, that's already a routine, by the way. Like, you already are. So if you're in a condemnation mode of like,
Yeah.
gosh, I never finish anything, it's like, is that really true? Let's ask ourselves. There are plenty of things you do every day. It's likely you probably eat every day. And most likely a lot of people eat almost at similar times. We can have erratic schedules, but pretty much people are pretty routine oriented. So we need these things to, number one, not live by default in autopilot. Because if our autopilot is causing us to feel frustrated and condemned, going, oh, it's not working, then we need systems and routine we need to do a shifting. There's something, which is why, again, unshakable. There's going to be an earthquake. Either there's a death in the family, a birth in the family. Something shifts us where we realize that things can't go on the way they have been.
Mm,
And so when we have systems and routines in place, we can actually have something to assess. Because if we don't actually have an intentional system and routine, as I said before, we're living by default on
yeah.
autopilot and we're reacting, we're not proactive. So I'm basically the proactive mom. That's my title. I'm the proactive mom, because proactive parenting, proactive homeschooling, proactive home management is all thinking ahead, deciding ahead how you want things to be, casting a vision, and living toward a vision. Because in the absence of conviction and vision, you will always default to autopilot and the way of culture.
Yeah.
That goes for parenting. Your children will go the way of the world if you do not intentionally train them to seek the Lord and show them how. It is too easy. The easy street is not the most comfortable street, actually, because you pay prices that you hate, but you get pleasure along the way, so you keep doing it. But when you seek the Lord and you change and you shift toward vision and what God is calling you to do, it's harder because it actually has it's a more that narrow path, right? It's the narrow path. But we need systems and order so that those things can begin to be on autopilot. And God has created our brains to embrace routine. It's the way we're wired.
Yeah.
And so if we are intentional, because we will wire ourselves to a default of a weird, a self-serving routine.
Yeah.
When we just don't think about things. But when we're intentional and we have systems and actual intentional routines and habits in place, then we're going somewhere. We know who we want. We're becoming who we want to be, who we know that our children want to be, and we're leading them somewhere. And that's how our homes. So what's great, I'll just say one last thing. What's great about, and the reason why systems are so important, is when things break down. When you do hit a breakdown, and you always will, because life keeps happening.
Yeah.
What's beautiful is after you've implemented some of these things, you can be more realistic about walking yourself out of them, because you can say to yourself, this looks like, I feel like I'm in a huge breakdown, but when you look around, you can go, wow, it's not as bad as I thought it was. My kids actually have gotten some of their schoolwork done. Yeah, I know that they knew to do the dishes. And so the kitchen isn't that much of a mess. We just had a party last night and it feels like a wreck. Or you can see that it only takes about a half an hour to an hour. If we all pitched in, this whole place would be sparkling again. And so it's those feelings that crouch in on you when you feel like things are in a breakdown, that when you've had systems or any kind of routine and systems in place that were already intentionally created, you don't realize how much they actually really are working for you. Even if there's a little kink in the breakdown, it just needs fine tuning. It's like a clockmaker. He's got to twist and he's got to do a little refining, but it doesn't mean the whole, throw the watch away and stomp on it. It's just, there's something that needs to be refined. Maybe you didn't and forgot to retrain some new children to take over a job as a kid graduated. Maybe you missed that window, and all of a sudden that kid you used to depend on, who was kind of kitchen captain for dinner, is now graduated or got a job. And it's like, oops, I forgot that that happened so quickly. I didn't realize that I needed to move the kids up a notch. It's just a step up, as opposed to starting at square one. You never had anything.
So what would you say to a mom who's like, okay, yeah, I need to implement some new routines in my life and for my family? What would you say would be the starting point for that?
Oh, I love this question because it's not comfortable. The starting point is always begin with you. You always start with you. How can you, in good conscience and authenticity and being a non-hypocrite, say, kids, clean your room when your room's a wreck? How can it's yourself. You're going to be mad at yourself, and you're not going to do it because you're going to think, hey, kids, make your bed every day. Go out, make your bed, and you didn't make yours. So you always begin with you. And honestly, just to be encouraging, no, that doesn't mean you have to have been doing it forever. All you need is one day. That day, you made your bed. Hey, look, it's a new thing we're all doing. I made my bed this morning, but you don't have to tell them. You can praise yourself. You can thank the Lord that you made your bed, but start with you. Number one, always start with you, so that you can have integrity. So you can believe that you're going, hey, I'm not asking anything crazy. I do this. I'm creating a new routine myself. I think I went 10, 15 years. I've made my bed, but it wasn't something that I actually can with all honesty say, I always make my bed. I now can say that, where it's been, I think 8 years that I've not made my bed ever. Any bed, whether that's the one I'm sleeping on the couch right now at my mom's house, or whether it's my bed at home or a hotel room bed. It has become something that I get out of the bed and I make the bed. And it's just natural. And so, but it happens just one day. Do it one day
Mm.
and stick with that one day and do it again tomorrow. Don't think to yourself, I need an AM routine. Let me write the 15 things that I want to have done in a morning.
Yeah, because that's where we go. We go
Right.
right there to,
The
this
list.
isn't working, this isn't working at home, this isn't working at home. So let me throw it all into a routine.
Right. And they compact, and I'm guilty of done this, which is what brought up this beautiful new technique where that's so not serving anyone, our children or us. And so here's a little tip. This is a hack, a mom hack. An AM routine is anything that you do before you leave your room.
Ooh, that's a
I
good
never at a
qualifier.
Right. So if before you walk out the door of your room, have you made your bed? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you combed your hair? Have you gotten dressed for the day? Did you put your clothes in the hamper? Did you put the clothes away back in the drawers if they were clean? Did you happen to tidy up anything that was out of place? I actually hid a tiny little dollar store, skinny broom behind my door, and I will sweep the floor even before I walk out the door. It just became, I added only one thing, not a day, at a time. And that's a little method that I have taken, and it's actually got a name, and it's easy plus one. You never create a routine by giving yourself a laundry list of things to do.
Yeah.
You do one thing and you keep doing that thing until it becomes a little rhythmic and you're feeling pretty comfortable with it. And you should always have something you're doing that's easy that gets the wheel spinning. And then we add a little cog to it. And that's plus one. The one that's a little hard. I can do one. Can I keep one and then a new one? All right. Well, that made it slow it down a
Yeah.
bit. Made the bed, but I have one easy. This one's still easy. I'm still doing it. Do not abandon the first one and go, I don't need to think about that anymore. No, you're still doing that one. And then you're adding one. Plus one.
Yeah.
This is how it works for children. It's called the easy plus one method, and it works for anyone. And it is why and how we can create systems that will stay in place, because we're constantly refining and we're going back to, well, what was easy? We might be in that beautiful place where we have our teeth and our, we get dressed. I always make my hair and I do my makeup, maybe I do, maybe I don't. But for most people, right, you get those things going. What's the plus one? Once your AM routine is done and you have about the 10 things that you do in a morning, then you leave your room. Now you're in your time blocked of your day. That's just the morning. AM routine, I call, right, is before you leave your room. Anything that comes after you've left your room is now your day has started.
Right. Which
So
I
that-
feel like for someone listening to this is going to be a freedom piece, because it's not I have to have a routine all mapped out for morning, evening, kids, dinner, and then you make this totally legalistic life that you have to live by, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And then when you don't do the routine, or you're off a routine, then you're telling yourself, see, I'm a failure, I'm not a good mom, I can't do this, or whatever.
Right.
And so it's just what you said. It's the one you do one. Once it's a little you've got it, you add one more.
Just one more. And it doesn't take much time to get through and get ready to have an AM routine. And this works for you and your children. It only takes about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to get yourself to the point where you can have, it doesn't mean that it's always happening. Just gauge yourself. My point is introducing this idea to where you have the several things rolling, because we're always going to get up, most likely, and get dressed for the day. So since it's going to happen anyway, let's just only focus on what to, I think of it this way, what to praise. If this is happening for my children, see, the first day I made my bed, great. And then I just moved on with my day and I just got the kids ready. I did not say anything about them making their bed. But the second day I made my bed again and I walked out and I said, hey guys, let's make our beds. And I went and make our beds. See how that's their easy. I'm doing my easy. They're doing their easy. And we can be like neck and neck together with our routines. Now, it may be that I stick with their bed alone. And the only thing I've actually said that they must do is make their bed. Did that mean that they're going to walk out in their underwear? No, of course they do need to get dressed for the day. But I'm looking for, good job for making your bed. I'm focusing on the one thing that I want to start to become a habit and a routine. And you stick with that and you keep praising it and you keep bringing it till that's the easy one. And I go, awesome, you made your bed. All right, let's get your clothes in the hamper. Okay, bed, clothes. This is, there's a whole routine for a child on how to get their morning done.
Wow.
Bed, then their clothes, right? And then I just focus on that. Bed, then clothes for another week.
So
And
what do
then,
you
yeah,
say to the mom who says, I can't keep up a routine?
I would say that is a belief. Is that really true? I would
Mm.
ask her, is that really true? Is there anything in your life that you've ever done consistently? Ever? And you might think it's no. You might want to go, no, I haven't. You'd be like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'd say, let's go back. There are some things. How and this is a backwards, right? You think that you've always failed, but no, I basically say, do you brush your teeth
Yeah.
ever? Right? Go back to the most minutia, weird basics to go, oh, I don't count that.
Yeah.
Yes, you should, because it's the thing that'll break off the belief that I can't do routines. Actually, it is a matter of believing that everything I do matters
Mm.
and everything I do can be categorized. You haven't been doing nothing or lazy or throwing your life away up till this point. So what has you got to really think about, what are the wins? What are the positive results you've achieved so far?
Yeah.
So that you can align with the things, something's been working in your life. Find that first. Don't look at, we already know all the stuff that doesn't work.
Yes.
If we go there first, then we're piling on the failure and the guilt, and that doesn't make us very motivated to want to do anything. We may be
No.
motivated to change or want it, but it doesn't make us free. Like I said, we talked earlier
Yeah.
about having openness to the opportunities or creativity. So let's shed that. Let's start with, is there anything about your life that's working well right now? There's got to be
Yeah.
something.
And you guys, that's a gold nugget right there. What's working? What's already working? And then you get to decide, do we keep doing it?
Yeah. And if it's working, I would highly recommend keep doing it.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And keep that, at least that, because if you had the laundry list
Yeah.
already, but it doesn't work, then we can deal with that in a minute. But for now, let's go, oh, that is working. And guess what? It might need a tiny bit of refining. Nothing's perfect, but at least we go, wow, you know what? My kids really do have good attitudes. And, maybe they do want to do the right thing. And
Mhm.
so maybe I just haven't set up a very easy way for them to know what to do. Hey, I just want to say right now, like, even though I've done this for years, it doesn't mean that there aren't pockets and years for sure. Even within the last 2 years, I would say last year I hit a place where I was in that, oh, I forgot I haven't trained that other level of kid yet. There was a moment of like, oh, 2020 happened. We were all together. So yeah, I kind of missed that. That kid graduated. Since we were home, we didn't feel that same impact, right? So it was a little different. So I had to kind of revisit and bring the kids in for a powwow and say, hey guys, I'm seeing that I'm getting frustrated. And so I do this a lot, by the way. This is really another hack of having powwows with your kids and sit down and ask them. I said, what is the deal? Do you even know what to do? And I go around the circle from the youngest to the oldest, and I say, what is your responsibility around here? What do you think is just even on their own? I might not have told them, but what do they think is
Yeah.
their responsibility? Because we may just be existing in this home aimlessly, not knowing where they fit.
Wow. Yeah.
That changed everything, because I was able to go, that is and it's a good reflection on me to go, thank you. I got to take ownership of that. I didn't beat myself up for it. I was so grateful, because I thought, another me would have, but this beautiful time, I was able to sit there and say, thank you for telling me this is so good for me. Let me help you. We're going to leave this day, this moment, with at least something that
Yeah.
we know is your responsibility, so that you can move forward from here and have ownership of what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that really helped the kids to then take ownership of what I wanted them to do, and everything shifted. I got to train them. We'll get into that later, but that was super helpful.
That is so good. You were talking a bit about your unshakable systems for
Yeah.
someone who is like, I need more help. Just establishing the routines and systems my home needs in a life-giving way. Like, where could they find this help with what you provide?
The best place to find me is at maggiegraham.com. That's me, and it's my website. And on there are links to go to the different courses that I have. And Unshakable Systems is open. So we'll be doing that next month and starting on September 1st. And so unshakablesystems.com is also another resource, which they'll take them almost the same place. So my name, maggiegraham.com, is the best way to get a hold of me. And you can go to contact as well and send me an email. And I would love to chat with you if you have questions and kind of are curious about what that even means. And what, even though it's on there, if you want to refine any of your questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So good. So if you could leave this call with like one piece of encouragement for moms, what would it be?
I would say, number one, you can do this. Whatever it is that the Lord has put on your life, you can do it, because he doesn't give assignments to those he's not willing to equip, and he will equip you, and he has equipped you. There are tools available for you to be who you want to be, and he's going to give it to you. And number two would be that you're loved, that you're worthy. And so don't allow condemnation to come in. When you see it, when you feel it, when you see the piles, don't give them voices. Recognize the voice and say, that's not who I am. That's just a pile.
Ooh, so good. That is so good. Thank you so much for joining me today, Maggie, where we can talk about systems and just delve a little bit into that, because I know for so many moms, they tell themselves, if I just had this routine, then I could feel happy. Then I can feel like my life is in order. Then I can feel like I'm momming well, which we've learned routines help us with the chaos. It puts order, but it's not who we are in Christ. It's not.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And you guys definitely check out Maggie's website and what she has to offer. Like I said, she has honed in this craft of systems, has a whole way to be able to teach and break it down so that you can implement life-giving systems in your own home. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. We would love to be able to answer them and connect with you. So take care, and thank you so much, Maggie.
Thank you.